Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this session, which we have titled Controlling QoE with Better Data. I am Marc Maycas, VP of Product Solutions at Nice People at Work. Basically, we're not a recruiting company, even though some people may think about that, but we are more a video business intelligence company. So we provide our customers with tools that allow them to analyze what's happening with their quality of experience and what their users are doing in their platform in order to help them grow their services. And you can understand my position as if I was a technical product manager, so I'm talking with customers, understanding what their needs are, and maybe developing custom solutions that they can be interesting for them. And also, well, I consider myself an industry expert since I have been in this space, in the video streaming space that we all know and love, for around more than 10 years. So that's actually all my experience working. It's been in the streaming video space. So before we start, I'd like to do a little bit of a consideration on why did we call this session Controlling QoE with Better Data. So basically, first of all, what I would say, what is QoE? It means quality of experience, but what's the main difference with this QoS? I have heard many times I speak with people that sometimes they do not know the boundaries between QoE and QoS. From our point of view, QoE is everything happens in the player side, while QoS is what happens beyond, from the CDN and backwards until we reach the encoding, and sometimes, and some people may even consider including the signal input of the image. Actually, QoE and QoS go together, but the main takeaway from here is that the QoE, it actually detects everything that happens in the client side and detects everything there. So, and then another question that just comes into my head is, is actually QoE only related to ad buffering, to rebufferings or video errors, or is also related to how much time it takes me to find the right content that it's fine. Is that right? Is that right? Yeah. So it's also related to what's surrounding the application. That is something that also we have done in the QoE space. But we are not in this side of things for this presentation. I just want you to have this idea in your minds, because that's something that eventually you will find yourselves in the future. So we need to understand everything that's related to the application as well. Why do we say also in the title better data? I mean, we have figures, we have numbers, we have graphs, but why does better data mean? Yeah, data by itself doesn't mean anything unless you can compare yourself with your competition, with what's going on with different devices in a region. So we need to know how to treat this data properly, and that's why better data is always needed, not only data for the sake of having data and collecting data. And why do we need to control it? Well, because our services actually rely on what our users are doing, what they are paying for, the content they're watching, their engagement, basically. And we need to have that feedback. Unless we ask our customers how good is the service going, and we know that I would say that not all the people will say good things about you. You will only have negative feedback when something is going wrong. You need to know and have all this information to know our users, to know their behavior in different regions, what works better in one space or another, etc., etc. So, let's see. So before we start digging into the numbers, the metrics, I would like to put some context on where we are. Okay, so I would say that we're living the era of personalization, and we see this many, many times when we see a Netflix article saying that they are changing the thumbnails for the end users in order to be able to help them look for their content better, and so on. So the background that brought us here is that nowadays we have a lot of services and subscription models in order to please all the customers, and we have all those services living together. We have subscription-based services that now are going to ABOT ads. So another problem, technical problem that we are facing as well nowadays. But we have those ABOT and SBOT freemium services living together, and also we still have some pay-per-view services where you go and rent a movie for a weekend and you watch it. I don't know if that's very popular here in the States, but where I'm coming from, Barcelona, I don't know if you know services that they are doing this nowadays. So users are more demanding and watch the content on the go as well. So Wi-Fi, the data consumption, the tech challenges, users are not at home anymore. So this has an impact on the devices. So you need to know which devices you want to tailor that specific experience to the users. So you need to know what they're using more, how they're using it, and help them on finding the content that they want. Because if we don't engage them, then we are losing them. And also, we have to take into account, and that's maybe this is why this is involved in here, it's that QoE is taken for granted. I still remember when I started like 10 years ago that the quality of experience was, oh please, I don't want to have another buffer in the next 2 minutes. And now it's, I want a TV-like experience. I want something that goes flawlessly as if I was with the digital television broadcasting quality, and even better, even with 4K and everything that we are seeing nowadays in the encoding space as well. Okay, so QoE is taken for granted even if I'm watching everything on my phone, and that's actually something that we need to tackle. There is also a fierceful competition, so the market is rapidly changing. Some actors are concentrating. I mean, for example, we're seeing that in France or in Spain, there are broadcasters that actually, in order to fight against Netflix, they have all grouped together in hybrid HbbTV applications that they just share all their content for their end users so they don't lose that engagement. We even had some IPTV resellers or some telcos, in this case, that inside their set-top boxes, they put Netflix and HBO and their competition inside of it. And why? Why are you doing this if that's actually vampirizing your content? No? So that sounds like weird. Talking with these people, they told me that I prefer people using my box and being able to stay engaged there, so I don't lose them forever. And maybe they like Netflix, so they log in and they just go to Netflix, an application that I don't have any kind of control, but then when I come back, I just watch that series that cost me like 10 million to produce, or that comedy show that is so popular and that I made along with other producers in the space. Okay, so for example, in Spain we have the Loves TV, or it's kind of a naming joke, like it's Loves TV because you love TV, but in Spanish, lo ves, it's you see. So that's the kind of thing. And also content is very important in the industry. Actually, it's the main driver of what brings us to there. It's true that, as I'm saying, and I know that I'm not focusing too much in QoE right now, but the idea is, yeah, I'm going to find the content that I want. But if the content doesn't work, then I don't care. I will go to other places I want to publicize here and download the content without anyone noticing it. And that's actually money that I'm losing, and that they're making me lose money against other users that are watching this content without having the permission to watch it. So here we have a saying that they say content is king. A few years ago, I updated it, or I like to update it, saying that content is king, but quality is queen. And now I would say that what I love to say, or I like to push this, and maybe you can help me out when you go out there and you just talk about that, I would say that data is king. Because with data, you don't know what content you want. With data, you don't know what quality you have without data. So you need this, this data, and a well-formatted data and meaningful data so you can succeed. So we need to push for the data is king, I would say. I don't know if at some point I will get some credit for this, but I would like to share it with you. Moreover, as I said, ads are also important, but avoiding ad blockers nowadays is costful. We know server-side ad insertion mechanisms. We know a lot of costful ways that we can just avoid the ad blockers. Maybe at some point, I even read some time ago that some services said, if you don't disable the ad blocker, please disable it, or I'm going to mine some crypto coins from you. And it's like people may be scared and then they disable the ad blocker. So this kind of thing is also important. And also ads can tamper with our experience. Actually, if I'm not being able to watch an ad and that ad causes an error that then causes another error with the content, I mean, what's the point? I mean, I want to watch the content. The ad is just something that you put me because you want to make money. Okay, that's fine. I mean, I understand you. I'm going to watch the ad. But if I see an ad, it breaks, and it breaks my experience, then I will never forgive you for this, okay? So just to give you some figures on the ad monetization market. Actually, Digital TV Research said that global revenue from AVOD distribution will nearly triple from $21.9 billion in 2018 to around $56 billion in 2024. So ads are there to stay, even though at some point, some people, when we saw Netflix, we thought, oh, ads will leave if you are a premium content owner or you are a premium content distributor. So, but no, that's not the case. So long story short, we need to have a real-time, deep knowledge on how the whole platform is working with sophisticated tools, like could be the analytics and the metrics that I'm going to discuss later, or also intelligent alerting systems, or the possibility to even go to one-to-one by each user. So I want to know, for example, I see some colleagues over there, I want to know what Grant is watching, and I want to know what John is actually paid for, and I want to have all this information aggregated all together and correlated with all my systems. So that's actually something that the market is demanding and that we need to provide a solution for. And also know the behavior of the user, the behavioral pattern, and how is that QoE is affecting it. So if bad QoE, how am I losing the users? Good QoE, how am I retaining them? And then when people just tell us, hey, do you know that service that's so good? Come and just sign up. And then people just promote us because we're doing a great job, technically speaking. Okay, so, and this will help us determine many, many strategies from so many levels. So which devices should I target? Which setups and configurations? Which codecs? I'm pretty sure that there's people here around that is working in the coding space. So which codec should I use? Which configurations? Which setups? How can I manage my customer care problems? Okay, so can I proactively solve an issue before they notice that they have an issue? That's something that data can help you with. And each decision that we make has a cost, has a related cost. So we need to have data to back this up. I mean, if I was going and say, I'm going to launch my new service in India, and you don't know if you have potential customers in India, or if the network is going to work with 4K streams, why are you doing that? I mean, you just need to get this data before you just go to your manager or you take the decision in order to launch a service over there. So we need to be able to trust in our data and make it actionable. Actionable is a word that you will hear me saying quite a lot in here because, as I said, data for the sake of data, it's not worth it. So this is why also NPAW and many other companies that are here, we're also working with the Streaming Video Alliance, we are an active company in the Streaming Video Alliance to help them build the video metrics, the video analytics that can help customers or companies like yours to succeed in terms of analyzing and guiding you on how you can make better decisions thanks to data. So extending the previous talk, I'm moving a little bit away from pure QoE. Again, what if we could answer these questions with data? For example, where do I have quality issues right now, and what are the root causes and users affected? This is the main driver of this session. I will go after it later. How are my CDNs performing? Which CDNs should I use or contract? For example, we are seeing that the SLAs with CDNs are not being met because actually a CDN is not good at 100% of the time. I can get the best CDN, but at some time they will fail. Or in some regions they will fail. Or with some devices, the implementation that they have done for this particular streaming protocol are not good. So I'm getting problems in there. So I need to have all this information and maybe A/B test them. Or maybe do or make use of a CDN balancer solution. Like I want to know what's the one that's the best, but I know that this one performs best at these times of the day, this other one at these other times of the day, or they having an outage or something. So I need to be able to give them, to give my engineering team real-time data in order to take decisions in real time. So is a customer complaint regarding quality issues legitimate? We have seen in the past some customers that said, we don't have any visibility, we don't need it. We have had a good weekend this weekend. We nearly had like 20 complaints in Twitter. We were like, okay, and you're taking this as valid data and so on. That's fine. 1 week later, hey, we need to talk. It seems that the 20 complaints that we had in Twitter actually led us to like 20% of unsubscribes. And we're like, whoa, totally crazy. Because customers, or end users, usually don't give you all the feedback, all the good feedback. And sometimes, even myself, I'm talking by my own experience, you feel like, I'm not going to complain. It's the third time that I'm having this issue. I already complained twice. I don't want to complain anymore. And then you unsubscribe and search the content that you want to watch somewhere else. So what are my users' activity and consumption patterns on which devices? We already spoke about that. So we need to know them technologically and psychological as well. Okay, we need to find that segmentation pattern. We need to segment our users because the segmentation is key to actually target them more efficiently. So did I retain new users? Who will churn next month? What is the average happiness score for my audience? Well, the happiness score is a metric that we internally created in NPAW, where we are using all the qualitative experience data from every single session, and we are scoring it based on the different metrics that we're getting. Okay, so actually in here, we want to know how our users are probably churning, or what's the probability of losing them in the next 30 days, for example. Okay, how are ISPs performing across regions? Actually, it's kind of related with question number 2, because we know that ISPs have bidding issues. And I would say that almost 80% of the times that we have a problem with the CDN, it's because of a bidding issue, or something in between that the customer and also the end user don't know about the relationship between the CDN and the ISP itself. So how can we detect those, and how can we overcome them, and then make sure that I'm calling the specific CDN and say, hey, you have a problem with Verizon or Comcast, or in Spain, Telefonica or Vodafone, for example. So I can give you those insights in real time, so you can let them know that they have a bidding issue, and then you're targeting them to the right spot where they need to look at. Okay. So continuing with it, why users log in but don't watch content? Okay, so sometimes content is hard to find, sometimes content is not that good, and we also need data in order to go into this space. Okay, and then what is the most effective ad strategy, quality, quantity, position? So the ad science can take us for 1.5 more hours here. And I'm pretty sure that I could get a lot of feedback and a lot of interesting feedback regarding ads. But the thing is, ads are a solution for monetization, but are a technical problem. Well, I wouldn't like to talk about problems. I like to talk about challenges. And we are there. I know that there are companies that are doing a great job by doing SSAI or client side, but we are still a little bit, we still need to go a little bit further with this. So let's get down to business. Let's focus on QoE metrics. Actually, I like to tell you that these are the metrics that we always hear the most in order to analyze the quality of experience, but maybe for you are not that good. Actually, as I was saying before, QoE is taken for granted, for example, and then the buffer ratio, which is actually the time I have been buffering over the total viewing time. Okay, maybe it's not interesting for me because I always been like in a flat buffer ratio at a very low level, for example. So that's not an indicator for me. But now my indicator is the engagement, the effective playtime, or how much time I have actually been watching content, for example. Okay, so just to go do a quick walkthrough, plays. We all know what this means. It's just every time that I click the play button in a player, I just report a play join time or startup time, how much time it takes for the player to start showing the first frame, the buffer ratio, where we explain EBBS or exits before video starts. These are really interesting because if we add ads into the equation, this is pretty, this becomes a little bit more complicated because you have to analyze if those drops or that exits are because of the ads or not because of the ads. So you have to take those two situations into account. Interruptions ratio. This is important because it's related with the buffer ratio, because one thing is that I'm talking, I have one interruption and I stay still, as it happened before, or the interruption is that every 5 seconds I'm getting an interruption. So what did bother you the most? Okay, so in my case, if I was like watching something and then I had this kind of interruptions all the time, in my case, I would be more pissed off is that if I only had one buffer ratio and then like 2 seconds of buffering, that's fine. Play errors in this case, okay? Play errors, I'm trying to watch a content, it fails. I'm trying to watch a content, I watch it, but then after 5 seconds, the segment is not there, the player doesn't know what to do, cannot recover, just snaps, breaks, the experience is lost. And then the bitrate. But the bitrate, even though we always aim to say bitrate, the higher the better, now we're seeing, and my colleagues here from encoding will say that now maybe it's not the best metric in order to analyze the quality of experience, because or the quality of the image, I would say, because right now we're seeing better compression algorithms that what they do is they, with less bitrate, same quality, or even better. Okay, so going into one by one, I wanted to give you some figures, but I will put some context. Don't worry about that. I will try to help you out on understanding 0.3, 0.2. What that? I mean, what is that good? It's not that good. What's the difference? So yeah, well, in here we can infer that the live buffer ratio is better than VOD. And why is that happening? Maybe you came here for this question. I'm not going to deceive you. So the idea is basically the buffer ratio in live is better because we see that the companies are actually reducing the startup bitrate on the streams, and then actually they include a lower quality in live because end user because what they want is to make the player not to buffer so often. Actually, this is also good because if I'm watching the content and live stream, because the live stream gets our users engaged. I mean, it's the effect of here and now. I'm just watching the Academy Awards, or I'm just watching the Game Awards that are happening next month, or I'm watching any single show that I'm interested in. So I will, even if it's a very low and poor quality, I will watch it. I will stay there. So companies, what they do is they reduce the buffer ratio, so they make sure that the content may not buffer, and then the only bad thing that could happen is that it can go like to the lowest quality of experience. Actually, we have seen from all this time that with the data we have from, our customers have gone from 2% buffer ratio down to 1% buffer ratio. I mean, there are many customers that were not using data, and since we help them, and we help them with consultancy, and we help them with our products, then they have been able to reduce this to such a low number. But as I said, 0.3, 0.2, yeah, 0.3%. It's 30 seconds over 100 that I'm buffering. So in that case, how does this mean in terms of engagement? So here, I would like to show you this graph, these two graphs, one for video, one for live, just to show you that here, while the buffer ratio increases, and then here the average playtime, there is a correlation. We see that as long as the buffer ratio increases, the playtime decreases, which is, I don't know, I don't know if I should say exponential or maybe fractional, but the thing is that it gets reduced. Actually, from here we're around 40, and to here we're around 20, so we lost half of the playtime, half of it, by just 0.2%. This is actually one use case. Okay, it's not the aggregated data itself, but only this step you lose this. And for live, it's even worse. Actually, for live, if I'm buffering, then the playtime is even lower. So we have to take into account buffer. Yes, it's a metric that we can rely on. To the lights of the graphs here, yes, we can rely on it, but it's not the main core of what we should be focusing on. Okay. So the join time, the startup time. Okay, fantastic. Yeah, 4 seconds, 2 seconds. Maybe if I ask someone of you here, you would say, oh, if I just have to wait like 5 seconds to watch something, I will just quit. Or maybe some other people say, well, I don't care because I'm actually like watching YouTube videos, and then I just click the play button, leave, and then when I come back, the content is already there, so I don't care. So what's acceptable for you? Well, we have seen that customers accept this. If it's fine, if it's until 5 seconds or so, beyond that, that's crazy. That's why, in this case, for VOD, and actually that's kind of related with what I was saying with the buffer. In the join time here for live, since we are reducing the lowest quality's bitrate, then I'm being able to start the content fast. But with VOD, some people or some companies, what they do is, oh, I want to start with the best one, or I want to start with the middle one, and so on. Netflix, for example, as we know, they do this. They start with a small quality, and sometimes you see when the black screen appears, the first chunks of the video, it's like black but with artifacts, and then when the content starts, wow, that's so amazing. Okay, because that's what the technique that they're using. And if we do the same exercise as before, when comparing the engagement with playtime, so actually here it's join time increasing down below, and percentage of plays here. Okay, so if we compare then the average playtime in this case. So if we compare this, okay, we don't see any behavioral impact. I mean, sometimes end users do not care about when the content starts, if then the content is watched flawlessly and without any issues. So exit before video starts. It's higher in live than compared with VOD. Actually, exit before video starts, it's for you to understand how we calculate the metric, it's the total amount of plays that have been an exit before video starts over the total amount of plays that we have. So we see that for live it's higher, and maybe you're wondering why. So actually we see that this live is higher, the eBVS in live is higher because we are having, or from the data set that we have companies that what they do is they allow you to do a live zapping. So they have an application, they have different channels, and they allow you to switch channel. So sometimes when I'm at home and I go crazy, I start going like this, like crazy, until I find the content that I want. So this is why I had a play attempt, but then I'm having an exit before video starts because I didn't even allow the device to start loading the first frame. So that's it. And we also see that the value is also higher in mobile, tablets, and phablets, which is a combination of phones and tablets, like Samsung Galaxy Note, for example. The portable devices mostly consume on the go. Actually, this is because of content chosen by mistake, bad connectivity, commuting on the tube, CDN issues, etc., etc. So these are basically also this. Interruption ratio per play, as I said before, when I started like cracking, my audio started cracking. Also the numbers, what do they mean? Actually in here, the value means is that we have a 0.07, is that we have 7 views out of 100 that actually had a rebuffering event. So that's the meaning. And then for VOD and live, live is better. And as I said before, it's because of these techniques on reducing the bitrate and allowing the player to go to a lower quality bitrate in this case. Okay. So errors. And here we are including, as I said before, all kinds of errors. We're including the startup errors, the startup crashes. Sometimes players like to lie to us. I don't know if you are working hands-on with players, but sometimes players, what they do is they just find an error, but they keep working. And it's like, what? We don't know. I mean, they like to report many things. There are some advanced players that do that. But the idea here is that here we're including all kinds of errors. Okay, and the interesting part here is if we are able to segment those errors, if we are able to segment them by DRM-based errors, not found, timeouts, invalid, tokens, or expired. Okay, so this is what actually gives you better data, being able to segment all these kinds of errors. And that's it. The effective playtime here. Yeah, as I said before, playtime is a measurement of engagement. Okay, and as a measurement of engagement, we need to take that into account. Because actually, even though it doesn't provide you the quality, that's a consequence of what's happening in when you're having quality issues and so on. So what we see is that the typical devices for home consumption, TVs and set-top box, are the ones that are driving the largest efficiency, the largest effective playtime. I mean, they are the start devices. When I arrive home and I put my 49-inch TV on, and then I start watching content as if there was no tomorrow. And then you realize that you have to stop watching something because you have to go to work or travel and come to the streaming media west. So the thing here is that with these devices, then I'm getting are engaging my users even more, my end users even more. And we can see that it's pretty similar in live and VOD, so there are not major differences. Okay, and then how do we do this? Okay, I have given you numbers. I told you what I mentioned a little bit about creating standards and being able to measure everything efficiently. How do we do this? As I said, we have to live, and this is a standard way of doing things. This is what many companies are doing nowadays, as well as we. And we have a small plugin, a small piece of code that lives in the application. Actually, this plugin is so, I would say, dumb, that the only thing it does is collects events, collects metadata, as we see here, and then sends them through an API to a backend that then creates and calculates those metrics and dimensions. And then you get descriptive, which are the ones that I explained now, the descriptive metrics or descriptive insights, and then predictives using machine learning and AI algorithms. But this doesn't end here. Okay, so I would lie to you if I said, no, once you implement this and you have the figures, that's it. No, I mean, we know that we are continuously evolving, and mainly I'm sure that there are many engineers here in the room with me. So we need to take actions, and those actions have consequences, and then those consequences need to be measured again, and then we have like this circle of QoE that I name it, that allows us to keep improving our service until the point that we reach the final setup. But as I said, things can happen, CDNs can fail, devices can fail, new devices can appear, the new programming languages, players that are very promising players. So if maybe we want to test and maybe we can improve. So this is a never-ending story that we have to work on. And as I said, this is a standard, and also this requires to you not only to integrate something, it's also required to analyze, to do a QA. So you need to make sure that the data is coming into your platform correctly, that the measurements are okay, and so on. And if you don't have the expertise in your house, then require for consultancy that we sometimes offer as well. So what do you need to get from here is actionable data that can help you with your insights. So a summary of everything we have seen. Okay, we can regroup everything data can do for you in these 6 different areas. Actually, performance and technology management, customer service efficiency. Okay, so we need to know, as I said, if the customers are complaining because they're having an issue or they are not having an issue. So we have to take that into account. Customer understanding for greater personalization, data-driven product lifecycle roadmap, what I said before. I cannot stress out how important this is. Okay, use the data to improve your product lifecycle roadmap and even investigate new things. We all like to have our hands on in new technologies and so on. So it's worth first having a small subset of users do A/B testing and make sure that everything that you are putting into production actually works, and also add efficiency. Okay. And then today's 7 takeaways, the ideas that I would like you to go back at home and just spread the word. So understanding your metrics and everything you can measure in and out, in and out of the video playback, okay, drives success. Okay, so technical, operational, and also in business, which is actually what managers are looking for. The metric values are not key by themselves. Okay, that's maybe I would say that this for me is the most important one, but the evolution of the effect in the user engagement. So I am giving this quality, how good is it? I'm giving this quality, how bad is it? Actually, I've seen, I forgot to mention before, for buffer ratio, we were talking about 0.2, 0.4%, stuff like that. If I go to other regions like India, Thailand, and so on, buffer ratio 5% is considered acceptable. 5%. It's pretty big. And that means that depending on the region, you have to take that into account. Also select the data that is useful to your service. We always hear like data, and then we think that we have to implement everything and go like crazy, and I need to get this data here, this data, my data lake is overflowing with data, but I don't know what to do. So not all the data is useful for the same services. Not all the data is interesting for the same departments. So we have to think carefully what we want to measure, track, and what kind of actions this data can lead me to. Each market faces its own particularities, as I said before, and when integrating analytics, it's important to follow the agnostic analytics platform best practices. I'm saying agnostic because sometimes we see that there are providers that are providing their own data, which is fine, it's useful, it gives you some insights, but when you need to compare apples with apples, then you need to have you need to have an agnostic tool that can help you on managing all this amount of data. Okay, and also make sure, as I said, to use QA environments, test these out, test your setups out, and make sure that you are going in the right direction. QoE is also driven by application metrics that we haven't considered here, but the content discovery, the content recommenders are things that we are kind of working on with some customers of our own, and we see that depending on the setup with the content recommendation engine and another, depending on the algorithm that you use, you're getting one result or another. So it's important to test these scenarios out. And as I said at the beginning, relying on the standards defined by the Streaming Video Alliance, for example, or the CTA and so on, these kind of documents and working groups will be helpful for the industry, and I think that's something that you can take a lot from it and will help you on defining your strategy. So make smarter decisions, informed decisions, always with video intelligence, like the tool that we have that if you want to know more, I'm here to answer questions.
Thank you, Marc. Thanks for sharing that data. That's excellent. Any questions?
For the data you showed us, I'm just curious what was that from?
The data is from the United States. We're getting all the data from United States customers, and that's what we brought in here. Yeah. So it's for all the devices, all the regions.
How much variability would you expect in different regions of the world?
Sorry?
How much variability in that data would you expect in different regions?
Quite a lot. Actually, as I said before, I've seen the buffer ratio, how tolerable it is in India, 5%. You see that the effective playtime doesn't decrease. Up until when you reach the 5% barrier, it starts to decrease. So all this, maybe I can just show you. So imagine the graphs that we have seen here, as if this was big, this was big, this was big, and when you reach here, then it's when it starts to decrease. So it varies quite a lot. But with, I would say, East Asia, well, Latin America is improving, okay? So the networks are improving, and that also affects the quality of experience. And also, we see that the telcos are kind of doing a great job there, selling their set-top boxes and using IPTV services rather than OTT, which is actually something that makes this buffer ratio decrease. If they're using IPTV, then there is no much buffer or none.
Any other questions?
Yeah, hi. I didn't quite understand the difference between the buffering ratio and the interruption measure.
Do you want me to repeat the performance? Actually, the buffer ratio gives you a measurement on how long I have been waiting for the content to start playing. So I'm watching something, I get the spinning wheel, and then I'm getting there for 2, 3, 4, 5 seconds, and then maybe the content goes flawlessly, and then I don't have any other interruption. The interruption ratio is every time I get interrupted, every time I see the spinning wheel. Actually, it's like I'm watching something and then interruption. But maybe it's a half a second interruption, but it just breaks the sound, it just breaks the video playing, so it's kind of bothering you. So sometimes some people say, oh, you're having a 2% buffer ratio, that's so high. Yeah, it is high, but it's only one interruption because your interruptions ratio are so low. So if you only look at 2% buffer ratio, that doesn't give you the full picture. So you have to take into account those interruptions.
2 questions really. On the plug-in agent that you were talking about, does that only work with your platform or is that agnostic?
Our plugin in this case works with our platform because actually what we do is we have what we call, I can go a little bit, yeah, that will help me. So actually you install the plugin here, and then our plugin, what it does is it gets the events, okay, it listens to the events and sends the properties, listens to the events and sends the properties to the plugin, and it's embedded with our open API. So we understand the events as we are sending them in this case. If you tell me, I would like to get the same information that you do, in our case, we provide tools that we send you the same events that our backend is receiving directly to you. So the agent works with us, and then we are the ones that are sending you the data.
Okay, and the second question is, as far as your metrics go and your findings, did you do any comparison across industry versus just your own platform?
Yeah, we do have that. Unfortunately, I have the data. Well, I mean industry, you mean other companies in the, like benchmarking?
Yeah, exactly. So other platforms and, you know, so you can kind of create an industry that oh, as a industry, we should be expecting 0.2% buffering versus just on my platform.
Yeah, we can do that. The data is not here though, but that's something that we can help you with. We providing benchmarking reports, but since, as I said before, managing the data is a lot of data. So when we want to answer, when we want to know these kind of questions, we need to first make the right questions to the data, and then data replies. Okay, so that's the idea. If you want to know between, you said not companies,
Just
But-
across the industry.
the industry verticals, or I'm comparing broadcasters against content owners against OTT services. Yeah, that's. I mean, we can split that data up. It's just a matter of saying, I only want to know what's going on OTT, or I want to know OTT and this, or I want to know OTT with Roku and telcos with Roku. So I want to have all this knowledge. Yeah, it's just a matter of being able to process it. Fortunately, our platform allows you to do that, and pretty easily and very fast.
Based on the data and the results you have, are you able to have a feedback loop and make some recommendations on what should be the encoding strategy, what should be the packaging strategy, what should be the DRM strategy, etc.? What's the feedback on the actual workflow?
Actually, that's a good question. It's something that we can do, but we are not doing because we don't have the use case. As I said before, the importance of the data is being able to get it in real time. So if I have an encoder, I'm getting the data in real time, and then I have an encoder that needs to take real-time decisions based on that data. In here, actually, when I say here, metrics and dimensions, here we have a UI icon. This is also consulting the APIs in real time. So this means that if you needed this data to take decisions on your end, we can send the right specific subset of data for you to take action. For example, I want to know if that specific rendition, or, well, we call renditions to the different qualities inside of a manifest. Some other people call them variants. But you say, I want to know if this rendition is causing me trouble on iPhone or not. And then we can tell you this. Yeah, you have a problem with right now with this rendition because the encoder, the CDN, etc. So why don't you take real-time action and then just remove it from the encoder? We are, in our case, we are not interacting with the encoder itself, but we can give data to the encoder to make use of this, even CDNs or any other system.
Okay, we can take one more question. Okay, good. Marc, thanks for the great presentation.
Thank you very much.